Hello, my name is Robert Miller and this is Field Notes number 9. Now if you've been watching the library, you're going to hear me say for 8 videos, this is workshop number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And each of them has an image and each of them has workshop. And now we're going to move and we're going to put thumbnails on top of all of those, but still in the video you're going to hear me say workshop. We're changing it to Field Notes because it fits better. It's more coherent and consistent with the entire theme of Bespoke Compass, of a journey, of discovery, of expanding awareness, attention, agency. It's a journey for you to take with a guide, whether it's self-guided and you have a virtual guide, or it's me in this room. Field Notes number 9, the image. Now, it's an artifact that activates something, stimulates something within you and within me when we see this image. And it's of a calculator with 17 times 34. And I've got it right on my other screen. 17 times 34. What's it evoke? There's an answer. It takes a minute. You actually probably went away and figured out what 17 times 34 is, which is 578. Almost no one will have known that answer locked in. They won't have memorized it. They won't know it. They won't be able to reach back into their memory and go, 17 times 34 is 578. Because you probably didn't memorize your 17 times tables all the way up to 34. So you didn't memorize times tables. And the reason why, we have our son, a friend paid him $100 to do the 100 times tables and memorize them. He had flashcards and he had to go all the way through and I think it was up to 12, so he had to go up to 12 and 12 times everything, and so he did it from 0 all the way through to 12 times 12, and he earned $100 by doing it under 3 minutes. And why did my friend do that? School doesn't teach the times tables anymore in our school district. And we were like, whoa, that's really important that he can just reach back and know the answer to 5 times 5. Not calculate 5 times 5, but just have a category. I know 5 times 5. This entire program in my success that you're watching, all of them, my leadership, my culture, my life, they all are based on this calculation category idea of Dr. Kahneman's. You reach back in the thinking fast mode and you have a category for that. You know the answer. It's the times tables. You don't have to calculate 17 times 34. You log 578 in your memory. Okay? I know the answer to that. I don't have to repeat the calculation. My son, despite earning $100, he doesn't use the timetables enough to know the answers to all of the equations in a 12 deck, 12 times, 144 equations. He doesn't have an answer to that yet. Okay? You would have to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, or another $100 and another $100 and another $100, and then it would become a category. He would know the answer to all of those equations. Okay? That's how you do times tables. In your life, there are many, many sequences that have calculation, 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 calculation. I know that category. And you see me reaching back. Reaching back is always that subconscious cue for you. Like physically, I reach back and go, oh. So that's how I coach people. Calculation is where you practice in the past. Okay? In the exercises we give you, in my leadership subconscious exercises, in my instincts, in my Now in My Room, it's somatic exercises, they have the same principle. What you need to be able to do is practice in the past with reflection. Okay? Looking at that past in the last 7 days, did I notice and pick any of the sessions in my leadership, my culture, my life? Did I notice that principle in effect in my life in the last 7 days? Okay, what did I notice? Okay, begin to calculate. You've stopped, you've timed out, and you've slowed way down, and you are calculating what happened. You're not thinking fast, you're thinking slowly. You've stopped and you've slowed way down and you're thinking carefully and calculatedly about the last 7 days, what you noticed, bring up a distinct thing in pause mode and look at it and learn from it, and then integrate something into your life with that, moving into the next week. And then you get to that next Tuesday, and it's session 2 of my leadership, and you're reflecting about subjective bias in assessment. What are we selecting for? Oh, selection process. Okay, I notice a selection process. I notice I'm selecting. Assessment is activated. What happens with calculation on a Tuesday in my leadership in session 2 bias is if you reflect for the last 7 days when you were using assessment and subjective bias, and then you test your subjective bias, you're thinking fast, and you look at it and go, how aligned was I to what we were actually selecting for? How objective was my subjective bias in the assessment? How objective was it? And sometimes it's perfect. People need a meta-narrative to work in my company as an employee. So vision is always objectively perfect for what I'm selecting for. Is someone with a we mentality, not a me mentality. And I reflect back on that. But then there are projects where I'm just hiring straight up coder or a contractor to do one thing on a temporary basis for 3 months. And I look at it and go, wow, my bias is terrible in that. I have to remember, what am I selecting for? What am I selecting for? And if I do that every week at the same time on the same day, and I reflect about the same things, I will quickly create a category. And I mean quickly as in the sense of months. You can quickly develop a categorical reaction of going, I know when I notice selection process that I stop, what are we selecting for? How closely aligned are my biases? Boom. And you actually haven't done a 17 times 34 slow thinking calculation. What you've done is, like my son, I know the answer to that, 5 times 5. I know the answer to 17 times 34, 578. You know how many times it's going to take me to say that for it to become a category? If you're curious about how long it takes, take 17 times 34. Sit with it every week, one day. See how many weeks it takes for 17 times 34 to become a categorical thing you can't forget. Let me say that again. If you're curious about how this works, take 17 times 34 every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Pick a time, noon, lunchtime. Ask yourself what the answer to 17 times 34 is. Find out how long it takes you to not think about that. Let me say that again. Find out how many weeks on a Tuesday you ask yourself that question. What's 17 times 34? How long does it take for 578 to be instantaneously, just instant? You pull it up as an instant answer. 5 times 5. Nobody, no adult has to think about 5 times 5. Not anybody watching this. It's baked, it's locked. 2 times 2. 2 and 2. 4. There's always 4. In any version, whatever's in between is 4. 2 and 2. 4. 17 times 34, 578. I always have to check, because I don't do this all the time. I don't want it to become a category, or you'll be able to tell I know the answer. You know, I don't think about drinking my coffee. It's a category. I know how to lift a cup. I know how to drink coffee. I know what warm or cold is. I know how to drink it carefully without thinking. You have many things in your life you do as a leader, to name choices you're making as leaders, calculating how to avoid conflict and negotiate it so that you're moving away and around and into by traveling to the other and being able to locate and relate to them and to be able to find ceasefire. That requires calculation. You know, this is instinctive now. This will create vulnerability for me. Why does that matter to you to know that? I'm officiating a funeral next Monday. This is Tuesday. And right now, I'm dealing with how I feel about it and the vulnerability of being someone. And I'm retired, so I don't do this anymore. So this is me coming out of retirement to officiate as a Christian minister at a funeral for a relatively young person. It's heartbreaking. It's difficult for me to process it. This helps me actually stay connected to my humanity so that I don't get so compartmentalized that I avoid how I actually feel about this. Because this is someone I knew. It's not a friend of mine, but it's a friend of mine's daughter, and I actually knew her in passing, been to pool parties. So I have feelings about it, and my Malabeads allow me to get into vulnerability and travel to connection and remind myself that I need to accept how I feel unconditionally. I practiced a long time for Malabeads to become a key to vulnerability. I could just reach back and get them by just moving my Malabeads from here to here, creates a connection, an access point for me. So each of the programs have place to practice. The videos are there for a purpose. 17 times 34 is what? This image should stimulate something in you. What do you know? What do you have to calculate? Thank you very much.